What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for September 16th, 2024. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Monday edition of the podcast, a game day Monday. Nick Foles' retirement ceremony in just about probably 9.5 hours. I'll be on the Broad Street line, heading down to the game. Looking forward to it. Be sure to follow me on social media, Jimbo_Mont, Twitter and TikTok, at Philly Jimbo on Instagram. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont, and spread the word. It is a game day, but spread the word. It's a good day for you to tell your friends, family, whoever, to listen to the podcast. Game days are always the better of the days, and I'm not sure if you can hear that or not. Not sure what's going on with my laptop today, but it is running very, very loudly today. So if you can hear that in the background, hopefully this thing does not blow up in the middle of me recording, but it sure sounds like it. But it is game day. Had a rough day yesterday gambling, and with my fantasy teams, for that matter too. Just as good of a day as I had on Saturday. I gave it all back and then some yesterday. Lots of weird and unexpected upsets, and lost my losers pool because the Raiders beat the Ravens, and then I lost the survivor pool because of the stinking Cowboys. More on them later. That's what happens when you trust a Dallas Cowboy. But let's start off with the Phillies. First team in Major League Baseball to 90 wins. It's the 17th time in team history they've gotten to that point. And what a game. And this was very much an old school pitcher's duel game. So if you like good defense, good pitching, this game was for you. It was scoreless going into the 8th inning. Christopher Sanchez gave up the home run. Phillies came right back and were able to tie it up and then walked it off in the 9th when Castellanos stole second and JT knocked him in. But they were actually doing some small ball things. And why can't I think of his name now? My mind just completely went blank. Rojas had a nice bunt there in the 8th inning. Unfortunately, it didn't lead to a run, but good, just old school small ball. You got to love that. And I was listening to it because we were coming home from our own baseball game, and even Kevin Stocker and Greg Murphy were like, that was an excellent bunt by him. So if all of a sudden, if Sanchez can start doing little things like that heading into the postseason, I mean, we've been working on it all year. That's going to be a huge, huge thing for this team. But Christopher Sanchez was great. 7+ innings, the 1 earned run, 7 strikeouts. He's really turned into, and I know Rob Thompson was asked about it, and I think it's still a little early to be setting up a playoff rotation. But, I mean, Sanchez certainly could be the number 2 pitcher behind Zach Wheeler. I don't think he'll do that because of Nola's reputation and track record and resume. But, I mean, I'm comfortable going into a Game 3 with Christopher Sanchez on the mound. But big win for them. Knocked the magic number to win the division down to 3, thanks to the Dodgers beating the Braves last night. 3 games to clinch a playoff spot. They now have 9 games, or they're up 9 games with 13 to play. They're up 4 on Milwaukee, still 2 on the Dodgers. And we say it all the time. We hear it. And this right now, I mean, there's still 13 games left. They got 4 against the Mets, 3 against Milwaukee, 3 against the Cubs, and I think 3 against the Nationals. But it is a marathon, not a sprint. Here we were all summer kind of sweating it out and stressing about the Phillies. 2-game lead is the best record in the National League. They have the best record in baseball, which is a goal for them because they would love to have home field if they make it to the World Series. So I am breathing a little bit of a sigh of relief. I was a little nervous going into that Mets series, especially after Game 1. But the way they battled back and walked both games off and whittled away that magic number. At this point, just I need them to clinch stuff and then just start kind of relaxing, getting where they need to be, the right mindset and everything like that. It was good to see Alec Bohm back. Hopefully Sosa's back today when they travel out to Milwaukee. But good, overall, good weekend for the Phils. Magic number is down to 5. and quite possibly could clinch the division this week, which would be amazing. Still going to be battling, though, for one of those top 4 or top 2 seeds, but they really could put the nail in Milwaukee's coffin with winning 2 out of 3 this week with them. So looking forward to this series tonight. Won't be watching much of that game as I'll be down at Lincoln Financial Field, but that's quite all right. Let's just keep it rolling, Phils. Be sure to listen to my boys over at the Clashing Conferences podcast, baseball, football. They got you covered. That's wherever you get your podcasts as well as on YouTube. And then go to Philly Goat. I told you about the Schwarberkrat shirt. They got all kinds of other stuff. Flyers and Sixers are getting ready. They got that covered as well. So just go see their wide selection of t-shirt. They do good things for charity as well. That's phillygoat.com. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off of your order. A little bit of Sixers news. Jarrett McCain hit threw the first pitch in the Phillies game last night, and it was a decent pitch. And I love when the teams kind of cross over like that. I know some people think, oh, Bryce is pandering and they're doing that, but I think it's great. And I go back to that picture from the 80s with like Schmidt, Jaws, Dr. J, and Bobby Clark. Like, I love it. So kudos to Jarrett McCain for throwing the first pitch out during the Phillies game yesterday. All right, it is Eagles Day. Monday Night Football. No A.J. Brown. I think we might see the coming out party for Jahan Dotson. At least my Hail Mary throw in my one fantasy league that I have just Christian McCaffrey, first pick overall, who's now out for 6 weeks. So hopefully Jahan Dotson has the Jahan Dotson game, and we're talking about it the way we would any other legend. But AJ being out does hurt, and I guess I'd rather them be cautious now than later in the season, especially when it comes to a hamstring soft tissue injury like that. Just tightened up in practice apparently, but you know what? If you're going to sit out, now would be the time to sit out and not have it nag throughout the season. But this is why they went out and got Jahan Dotson. So we'll talk more about this in the keys to the game, but the line currently is 5.5. Not a huge line movement with AJ being out, so I think that just goes to show what sports books think about the Falcons and the rest of the Eagles offense. Before we get into the Eagles game, I mentioned the Cowboys getting blown out yesterday against the Saints. All of a sudden, that Saints game next week looks mighty, mighty interesting, especially down in New Orleans. So we'll see how it goes. But it's always good, even though I lost the survivor pool on it, always good to see the Cowboys get blown out, especially at home. So obviously that helps the Eagles out. Washington beat the Giants. That game was trash. Sorry, it just was. Surprisingly, the Vikings beat the 49ers, and I said the 49ers are going to take a step back this year because of the Super Bowl hangover, all that other stuff, and there's no way they should have been losing to Minnesota. I don't care if Justin Jefferson had like a 99 or whatever it was yard touchdown. You shouldn't lose that game. Not to Sam Darnold. Come on now. Tampa Bay beat Detroit. Tampa Bay, Baker Mayfield didn't look bad. The Rams got blown out by the Cardinals. All of a sudden, I think the Cardinals could be that surprise team. Everybody was saying it was the Bears who lost last night. I'm not sold on Caleb Williams. I think he might be okay, but he's not on the same level as C.J. Stroud, and he proved that last night. But I think the Cardinals could be sneaky good. James Conner looks like he's back to a healthy James Conner. They made a conscious effort to get to Marvin Harrison, and then on that long bomb, like he broke off his route and did the right thing. So they could be a team to watch for. The Seahawks are 2-0 too. They could be a sneaky good team to watch, but I'm just not convinced on Geno Smith. But with all of that happened yesterday, there's a big opportunity now for the Eagles to take advantage of it. And in football, more than any of the other sports, every game really does matter when it comes to seeding and tiebreakers and all of that. So you're playing an interconference game. You can't lose this, especially with the Seahawks winning going 2-0, especially with the way the Cardinals look and the way things sort of played out yesterday. It's not, obviously it's not a must-win game, but this would be a huge game for the Eagles to win tonight. So with that being said, let's look at the 3 keys to the game. Again, Key Bank, any other of the local Bergies, car dealerships, whatever, Gary Barbera, any of them. If you want to sponsor this, this would be a good chance for you to sponsor. But here are my 3 keys to the game. First, and it's the obvious, could be a key to the game, but after last week, it's important that they need to take care of the ball. They were the only team last week that won a game by losing the turnover battle. Jalen just needs to be smart, and I get that sometimes he wants to make a big play and prove his worth and all that. But I think he needs to play smart and know his limitations. Know that you can't make that throw across your body. And there's a lot of talk this week in the newspaper as well as on the radio stations about the difference between being a game manager and the playmaker. I don't necessarily think it's a negative connotation to be a game manager, but I think for Jalen, he certainly can be the playmaker. He just needs to take advantage of what the defense has given him, as well as just knowing your own limitations. I mean, I'm not going out and running a marathon because I know I can't do it. I could probably go run a 5K right now, though. So just, I know that's probably a horrible analogy, but I think just knowing what you can do and playing within yourself, taking what the defense is going to give you, I think is going to be key. But you have to take care of the ball, make smart decisions, and you got to win the turnover battle. As dumb as it and as simple as it sounds, like that's the key to the game. The Eagles got lucky last week losing the turnover battle and still winning that game. So first key to the game, taking care of the ball. Second key to the game, I tweaked this a little bit because of AJ being out, but originally I said we needed to have a Dallas Goedert sighting. He needs to get involved in the game, especially because now there's no AJ. I think you could add Jahan Dotson in there as well, but really Dallas Goedert needs to have a big game. And when he was targeted, he did the most with his opportunities last week, but I think you need to get him involved, especially with no AJ, because they're going to focus and try to shut down Devontae with no AJ. So somebody's going to need to step up. And I think because of what he did last week, they're going to be keen on Saquon Barkley. So that middle of the field could open up for Dallas Goedert. And again, with no AJ now, I think he becomes sort of that de facto third or fourth option. So I want to see Dallas Goedert get involved in this game. In Atlanta, really, like I said, because of the way they're going to be keen on Saquon, it should open up some opportunities for Dallas Goedert tonight. And the third and final key of the game, got to pressure Kirk Cousins. He still looks like he's hobbled. I was watching videos. It looks like he can't move that well because of that Achilles injury still. He says he's fine. But I don't know. You can't give him time and let him pick you apart. I mean, he is good enough to make the throws if he has the time, but you got to make his life miserable tonight. And I think that, to me, is even more of a key to this game than containing Bijan Robinson. And look, you can't blame the field. You're going to be playing at home on your home field. You can't blame the field being slippery or anything like that. So Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, and Bryce Huff, you need to really step up and do this. And this one's a little bit on Vic Fangio, too. I saw somebody mention this, and I can't remember who. But I kind of was like, all right, it might have been Elliott Shore-Parks. But if you know that Bryce Huff is a pass rush specialist, I mean, yeah, it's great. You want him on the field all downs and stopping the run. But you need to let him and turn him loose. I'm going to go and say, listen, if he's saying it was the field, give him the benefit of the doubt, but the field's not going to be an excuse tonight. It looks like the weather's going to be perfect. So you have to, now's the time to show us what you got, Bryce. And Vic, if there's any packages or whatever you have lined up, you need to turn him loose because you got to hit Kirk Cousins early and often. That's just really make his life uncomfortable and miserable, because we all know how he usually performs on primetime, especially against the Eagles anyway. So getting pressure on Kirk Cousins is the final key to the game. So the 3 keys: take care of the ball, get Dallas Goedert involved, and pressure Kirk Cousins. Very simple game plan. I mean, it's not like I'm over here spitting rocket science over here. But I think you do those 3 things. Shouldn't be a problem for this game. So what is the pick of this game? We won our bet last week. We're 1-0. Hopefully, this pick will turn around the fortunes of my day from yesterday. But the line is 5.5. I don't really want to mess with the total because I could see both teams really taking the air out of the ball and running it. But then I could also see a shootout. So I don't want to mess with the total on this game. But 5.5, I think this is it's a good line. But I think this is a 6-7 point win. And with or without AJ, I cannot see the Eagles losing this game, especially at home. They need to feed off the crowd, and they usually do. The crowd is going to be out of control. 1, because it's Monday night. 2, because Nick Foles is in the house. Jason Kelsey's in the house. There's going to be the crowd's going to be loud. A lot of nostalgia from that 2017 Super Bowl team. So we're going Eagles minus 5.5 tonight. I think they improved to 2-0. I think they do clean it up. The one thing that still concerns me is the pass rush and the pressure on Cousins. But listen, they got to do it. I mean, if they don't give him time, or if they give him time and he's able, I don't care how good the secondary is, he's going to pick us apart. So it comes down to that defensive line. But I think they get it done. Eagles minus 5.5 is our official pick. Let's do it. All right. That leads to the question of the day. What's your pick for the game? 267-495-8531. That's the Back to the Future voice and text line. Let me know your thoughts on the game. What are your keys to the game? Like I said, mine are take care of the ball, get Dallas Goedert involved, and pressure Kirk Cousins. But let me know your thoughts. 267-495-8531. That'll get you in. Get that. Anything else Philly sports related off your chest? You want to talk Phillies? All of that is fair game. Yesterday I asked you, do you have a preference on who the Phillies play in the postseason? 60% of you agreed with me that you don't care. A lot of folks saying the same thing I did, that the only team that can beat the Phillies are the Phillies. A lot of people didn't want to play Arizona just because of the history there. And, I mean, really, they haven't been playing well the past couple weeks, so I'm not concerned. And I think the fact the Mets came in red hot and the Phillies were able to do what they did to them, I think is a good sign as well. So thank you, as always, for participating in the question of the day. But today it's game day. What are your Eagles-Falcons predictions? Get them in on the Back to the Future voice and text line, 267-495-8531. And let's go Birds. All right, today we're going to go back to 1972. And on this day in 1972, the Phillies beat the Expos 3-1 in front of only 6,471 fans at the Vet. 72 was just a brutal, brutal season for the Phillies. The Expos were managed by former Philly manager Gene Mock of 1964 Fold fame. But like I said, that 72 season was just bad for the Phillies. They went 59-97. That was the year Steve Carlton won 27 of their 59 games. But in the crowd that night were Lois and Jack Schmidt, who were watching their son make his 3rd ever major league start. Well, their son Mike went 1 for 3 that night with 3 RBI on his first career home run. And he also, a very interesting quote in the newspaper after that game, said he didn't feel he got all of that. I mean, he crushed this ball. If you remember, the Vet had some pretty deep alleys. He hit it to the alley, crushed it, said he didn't get all of it. Ended up being Mike's only home run that season. The following season, he would become the everyday third baseman in 1973. All he would end up doing, though, is going on to hit 547 more home runs, 3 MVPs, 12 All-Star games, 10 Gold Gloves, 6 Silver Sluggers, and 1 World Series championship in which he won the MVP. So on this day in 1972, Michael Jack Schmidt hit his first career home run as a Philly, in the major leagues, I should say. He only played for the Phillies, in front of his parents, who were one of 6,000 and change fans. It was a bad, bad season, but there was a glimmer of hope. A lot of young guys in that lineup. There's a young Bob Boone. Larry Boa got into that game. Greg Luzinski. So the seeds were starting to be planted for that 1980 World Series team back in 1972 when Mike Schmidt hit his first career home run on this day against the Expos, and he would just go on to just kill the Expos the rest of his career. Phillies beat the Expos 3-1. Mike Schmidt knocked in all three with his first Major League home run. All right, finally today, sticking with the Phils, our Philly sports villain. And this one is just... it's one of those things. Adam Eaton, pitcher, signed a 3-year, $24 million contract for the Phils in 2007, was supposed to kind of be a difference maker. He was originally drafted by the Phillies, so he was coming back to the team that drafted him, and all he did was be terrible. In 2007, he went 10-10 with a 6.29 ERA, did not make the postseason roster. Not that it would have made a difference against that red-hot Rockies team. In 2008, though, somehow he managed to be even worse. Started off the season 3-8 with a 5.71 ERA. Every time he pitched, he was bad. Very Taijuan Walker-esque, if you will, to compare it to this year's team. Really forced the Phillies to have to make a trade, so he forced them. They traded for Joe Blanton. And then right after the All-Star break, he was still terrible, sent down to the minors. And the team, I don't know if it's a coincidence or not, played better after Adam Eaton got sent down to the minors, kind of coincided with bringing in Joe Blanton. The thing that pisses me off the most about Adam Eaton is he got a World Series ring. And I get that everybody on the team gets a World Series ring. He was a member. He played in games and everything. But Adam Eaton did not deserve a World Series ring. Like, maybe they played better and didn't have to be so exciting down in 2007, down the stretch, if he pitched better. Maybe they don't trade for Joe Blanton and get a different bat if he pitched better in 2008. Now, Joe Blanton obviously was a key part of them chasing down the Mets again and actually winning the World Series. But Adam Eaton was booed the day they got their rings. I know a lot of folks in the national media gave Philly fans a lot of crap for that, but I was in the crowd that day when they got their rings, and deservedly so. He deserved to be booed. So what makes him a villain, though, is none of this. None of the terrible play. None of that. Listen, guys are terrible sometimes. It happens. What makes Adam Eaton the villain is that in an interview, he said that he was partially responsible for the success in 2007 and 2008. Hey, we won a World Series. First of all, dude, you got called up in the from the minors in September and didn't pitch. You also didn't make the postseason roster either year. So you didn't really contribute that much. You made the job that much harder. Maybe you were teaching them a tough love lesson in how to handle adversity. I don't know. That would be like saying Taijuan Walker coming out right now and saying, hey, I am a big part of this team's success this year. No, you're zero part of the success. This team might have won 100 games if it wasn't for Taijuan Walker. The 2008 Phillies may have won 100 games if it wasn't for Adam Eaton. All right, maybe not 100 games, but you get what I'm saying. So, I mean, all you did was suck so bad that they traded for Joe Blanton, and Joe Blanton helped them win the World Series. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if that's what you meant. Like, hey, I forced them to trade for Joe Blanton, who was a key part of the run. So if that's the case, then yes, I guess you did play a big part in that, or you were partially responsible. But, dude, shut up, take your ring, and be happy that you even got one, because you certainly don't deserve it. You were terrible. Absolutely terrible. Terrible. You hear me, Adam? Terrible. And you know what the worst part is? I talk about punchable faces all the time. Adam Eaton doesn't even have a punchable face. He just looks like a guy that just blends into the crowd. But, yeah, Adam Eaton is today's Philly sports villain. I forgot how much I hated him until I didn't realize this rant was going to turn that bad. But he was absolutely terrible. You are not partially responsible for those runs. If anything, you hurt and hampered those runs. So unless you're talking about teaching that team how to overcome adversity, Miss me with the whole you were partially responsible. Get the hell out of here. You're responsible for them getting Joe Blanton. But Adam Eaton, today's Philly sports villain. On this day in 1972, the Hall of Famer and Phillies legend, the best player in team history, Mike Schmidt, hit his first career home run in a 3-1 win against the Expos. He was always an Expo killer. He knocked in all 3 runs. His parents were one of 6,000 people in the crowd, but the seeds started to become planted for that late 70s, early 80s Phillies team. We're going with the Eagles tonight, -5.5. Let me know your thoughts on the game. 267-495-8531. That'll get you in. My 3 keys to the game: take care of the ball, get Dallas Goedert involved, and put some pressure on Kirk Cousins. He's going to be a statue back there. He's not going to be able to move, so you got to get to the quarterback. Phil's in Milwaukee tonight. Let's continue to whittle away that magic number and start clinching some stuff, and maybe, just maybe, dancing on my own will be making a return for the postseason. We shall see. God help us all if it does. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for September 16th, 2024. My name is Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Monday, and until next time, go Birds.